2 months into my pregnancy, my husband's younger brother Mike brought back our wedding rings. Sister-in-law. My brother John, he had an accident overseas. I'm sorry. This was all I could retrieve. I took the ring into my palm, gripping it until my knuckles turned white. Though I can't recall how I made it home afterward. For years I endured grief while caring for his family, only to become the ultimate joke. Because John never died, he'd been using my money to pamper his first love, Linda, abroad, living out their sweet fantasy. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at that fateful moment with the ring. There in the living room, sorting through baby clothes when the scene reset itself. Mike stood before me, the cold metal circle already in my palm. Sister-in-law. The company purchased accident insurance for overseas staff. With compensation, there's $1 million in this card. His eyes darted to Mr. and Mrs. Wilson in silent collusion. Tears streamed down like scattered pearls as my hand shot toward the bank card. Caught off guard by my acceptance, Mike loosened his grip enough for me to snatch it. Mrs. Wilson's eyes blazed until her husband restrained her. Of course this wasn't real compensation, just Wilson family money meant to circle back after my predictable refusal. Last lifetime, I declined out of pity for the elderly couple losing their son while raising college student Mike. I'd worked through my pregnancy, nearly delivering at my desk while they leeched off me. My child, bearing John's likeness, became both my deepest love and frustration. Whenever I disciplined him, the Wilsons would rescue him with treats and poison his mind against me. Even when grown, my son Junior took pride in his overseas father's deception. Genetic loyalty truly is formidable. My palm rested on my abdomen. Since heaven granted me this second chance, and since the life within me proved incapable of basic decency, this time, you won't see daylight. Mike stammered, unprepared for my compliance. Mrs. Wilson launched into her specialty act, wailing on the floor, "You jinx. Our John died because of you. You just want the money." I pinched my thigh, adopting a faintish sway as neighbors gathered at the open door. Mr. Wilson, ever image conscious, barked, "Enough. We're all grieving. Let Ivy process this. Funeral arrangements need funding anyway." His sidelong glance confirmed it, the mastermind behind his wife's theatrics. How easily they'd manipulated me before. But no more. Let their carefully crafted drama play to my terms now. The three of them waited for my response. I sobbed. "Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, don't worry. My love for John was true. I'll take care of this household for him." Ugh. No one mentioned the money now. Pretending not to see Mrs. Wilson's earlier tantrum. The onlookers dispersed. The Wilsons knew better than to push further and risk suspicion. They offered hollow condolences before leaving tearfully. After all, there was still their eldest son John's funeral to arrange. When they finally left, I exhaled deeply. Whether John's death was real or fake, I'd make damn sure he stayed dead. In the following days, the Wilson family handled funeral arrangements while relatives came in waves. I pleaded emotional exhaustion to avoid them. These were clearly Mrs. Wilson's hired persuaders. Within minutes they'd start lamenting how the poor elderly Wilsons deserve support. My answer? Morning sickness. Pregnancy privileges. Staring at John's portrait, I hid my sneer behind a handkerchief. By nightfall, the house emptied. The Wilsons gathered in my living room, my parents' wedding gift. We'd moved here after marriage when John complained about suburban commutes. In my past life, after childbirth, the whole Wilson clan invaded under the guise of helping. I became their cook, financier, and Mike's personal ATM for his education and wedding. The Leaches never contributed a dime. Back then, I'd tolerated it for family harmony. How naive. John had planned this all along, abandoning his family for me to bankroll. I kept my eyes down. feigning ignorance of their silent scheming. Mr. Wilson finally broke, Ivy. We're old. Burying our child, it's too much. We don't want the compensation money for ourselves. Just leave some for Mike. We'll grow vegetables to support ourselves. His crocodile tears fell. My former self would have handed over the bank card instantly. The prolonged silence made his performance falter. Mrs. Wilson twitched like a loaded weapon, barely restrained by her husband's glare. Poor dears. The truth? Their retirement fund overflowed. Since dating me, John had funneled $3,000 to $5,000 monthly to them. After marriage, his entire paycheck went to the Wilsons while I covered all expenses. They sat on at least $1 million, yet still coveted my $1 million settlement. Money-hungry parasites. Must have lost sleep these past nights, agonizing over their cash cow slipping away. But no more this Wilson family would starve without my subsidies. I'll see if John Wilson can keep living happily abroad, pretending not to notice their furtive gestures. I wiped my eyes. Dad. Mom. Don't worry. I'll have this baby and take care of the family for John. I'll handle your retirement and look after Mike too. With that, I retrieved $20,000 cash from the bedroom and handed it to Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. Take this for now. I'm resigning to focus on my pregnancy. I've been having cramps lately, need to see the doctor tomorrow. After that, I'll transfer the rest to Mike's account. Of course. No rush. Mrs. Wilson mumbled as her husband and Mike dragged her away. Their complaints carried clearly across the yard. This was your stupid idea, faking that compensation fund. Without it, Ivy would have gone to John's company and exposed everything. Relax. Mike snapped. She promised to wire the money. Better keep her word. Mr. Wilson growled. Or I'll make her regret it. Their voices faded into the wind. Next morning, I resigned immediately. This lifetime, I'll prioritize myself, no more working overtime until nearly giving birth at my desk. My parents, fearing the Wilsons would exploit their only child, had bought me every insurance policy imaginable before marriage. With 2 downtown rental properties and steady income, money wasn't an issue. The signs had been there last time. While my parents lived, John's demands stayed manageable. After their fatal car crash, he'd invent endless excuses to drain my funds. I often wonder how frantic they must have felt watching their daughter get played from heaven. When John faked his death previously, his parents developed chronic health crises, always needing expensive tests but refusing my company. Just my money. Now I realize those funds probably financed John and Linda's life overseas. At the police station, I submitted all documentation to legally erase John's existence. Let him rot as a stateless ghost, barred from returning. Without my financial sponsorship, his green card dreams would crumble. I'd pay good money to see his face when he discovers this. My afternoon abortion appointment went smoothly. Returning home at dusk, I felt lighter than ever. Goodbye, ungrateful parasite. I hired a postpartum doula for recovery. 30 peaceful days later, my complexion glowed. The calendar showed 3 days until July 6th, date I'd circled with blood red X. Last lifetime. The Wilsons summoned me that day under false pretenses, forcing their pregnant daughter-in-law to cook for relatives. They'd feasted outdoors while I scrubbed dishes, then handed me half-cold nutritious soup. After cleaning until midnight, I'd driven through storm-blackened suburbs where downed power lines ignited wildfires. The Wilsons broke their legs jumping from windows. Then guilt-tripped me into being their unpaid nurse for 2 months. On July 5th evening, Mrs. Wilson's call came as I prepared for bed. Ivy? Your father and I miss you. Come for dinner tomorrow? Staring at the crimson X, I smiled. Of course, Mom. I'll be there. The phone call was drowned out by the clattering mahjong tiles and Mrs. Wilson's slightly distorted voice. Ivy. Pick up some pork ribs and beef from the market tomorrow. We're out of meat dishes here. The line went dead before I could respond. Classic. Early next morning, I drove to the Wilson family's suburban home. Glancing at the rearview mirror, I smirked. The trunk held not just groceries but a case of Matai liquor. As expected, a dozen aunts, uncles, and cousins from the Wilson clan were already lounging in the courtyard with tea and sunflower seeds when I arrived. A few teenage cousins helped unload the groceries. Aunt Wilson eyed the meat in my hands and chirped. Sis, you and John really hit the jackpot with daughters-in-law. Even pregnant. Ivy's still cooking for you, Mrs. Wilson remained silent, and I simply smiled without comment. The aunt's expression soured until spotting the liquor case. Young people these days don't know frugality, she clucked, already directing her son to place the Matai near Mr. Wilson's table. Mrs. Wilson, playing the matriarch from her lawn chair, glared at the missed opportunity but complained instead. Ivy, my back's acting up. Just whip up something simple for lunch, no need for fancy dishes. The courtyard buzzed with exaggerated family gossip, conveniently forgetting my recent miscarriage. In the kitchen sanctuary where no one would intrude, I set aside the fresh meat and unpacked pre-made dishes from my bag. Scrolling through my phone, I paused at a live stream banner, 3_stones Mike. Already a top donor despite his youth. Last life. He'd blown $50,000 meeting an internet first love that fizzled on contact. The 5'5" shaped man nursed illusions of sugar mama romance until finally settling at 50. Still complaining about the aged matchmakers I suggested. 30 minutes later, impatient shouts interrupted my scrolling. I reheated the pre-made meals in waves. The courtyard erupted in raucous feasting as the Wilson men cracked open liquor bottles. Nobody noticed me eating beef fried rice alone in the kitchen. By departure time, the younger cousins had left for school. Mrs. Wilson had retired to her room. I lingered just long enough to lock eyes with Mr. Wilson before driving off. 3:17 a.m. The phone shrilled Aunt Wilson's panic. Ivy. Come quick! Your in-law's house is on fire. I dressed leisurely, remembering my past life's frantic 120 calls. Country folks always turn to family first, even when flames licked at death's door. In my past life, I was the one who saved them. Now I must submit to fate. 2 hours later, I arrived at Mr. and Mrs. Wilson's home. The house had burned beyond recognition. The uncle and uncle-in-law had stayed at the Wilson residence this time. Being younger and staying in the first-floor hall, they managed to escape but inhaled heavy smoke during the panic, falling unconscious. Mr. Wilson had drunk too much that day. His reactions slowed. By the time he got up, he only saw Mrs. Wilson's silhouette, desperately trying to hold her and make her lead him out. Neither ultimately escaped the flames. Staring at the thick smoke, I remained silent. When ambulances finally arrived, the uncles were rushed to emergency care. The Wilsons had been reduced to charcoal, destined directly for the funeral home. Cremation costs saved. Mike's phone remained unanswered throughout. When he finally received the call next day and rushed over, his parents already rested in small urns. His grief seemed genuine, no final goodbye. With the Wilsons' deaths, the aunts and uncles didn't demand medical fees. Mike couldn't comprehend how his world collapsed overnight. He tried contacting John but only ever received one-way communications from his brother and parents. Truly lost now. After the funeral's haze cleared, Mike said mournfully, Ivy, only you and I remain. Watching his performative sorrow, I smirked internally. Acting? Child's play. Feigning sympathy. I replied, Mike, focus on your studies. Get a good job after graduation to honor them. He blinked, Then pressed, "Didn't you promise Mom and Dad to transfer the money?" I laughed coldly, confused. "Mike? What money? The compensation? Since when do in-laws claim compensation?" Enraged by my sudden defiance, he spat, "Bitch! You dare cheat me?" Watching his fury, I countered, "I won't claim John's past transfers. Your parents' assets are all under your name now, aren't they?" His guilty flinch confirmed it, blustering empty threats about inheritance. He left first. Knowing Mike's petty nature, this wouldn't end here. I now cherished life too much. Within days, the aunt and uncle appeared at my doorstep. They'd first gone to my workplace, only to find I'd resigned. "Why quit, Ivy?" the aunt began. "With child on the way? Plan to raise kids scavenging?" The uncle chimed in, "Who resigns during pregnancy? Such delicacy." Silently eating an apple on the couch, I watched their duet. The aunt's eyes darted around living areas. "Since Mrs. Wilson's gone, let me move in to care for you." The uncle snapped, "Married women don't nurse nieces. That's for aunts-in-law." Swallowing fruit, I interrupted, "Thank you, but I can manage." They shifted tactics. "Mike says he's starving at college. How could you neglect him? Living luxuriously then abandoning family." Smiling innocently, I asked, "But Mike holds over $1 million from his parents. How could he need money?" "What? $1 million?" Their synchronized shock echoed through the room. "Yes. My parents' money is all under Mike Wilson's name. That money is enough for Mike's education and future work expenses. If Mike ever needs help, I'll definitely step in." $1 million spent in just a few days? Could he have been scammed? I immediately reached for my phone to call the police. Aunt and uncle hurriedly stopped me, claimed they'd made a mistake, then left in a rush. Within days, I received furious calls from Mike blaming me for speaking up. Later I heard aunt and uncle's families had borrowed $700,000 from Mike. Mike remained obsessed with tipping live streamers. $30,000 couldn't sustain his top donor status for long. Sure enough, early Saturday morning, I opened my door to find Mike kneeling on my doorstep, tearfully apologizing and begging forgiveness while neighbors whispered. The boy had grown bolder, but I wasn't buying it. After days of his kneeling brought no response, Mike returned with some shady characters to harass me in the neighborhood. Though I ignored them, the commotion disturbed other residents. I nodded approvingly at the female bodyguard from the security company while commissioning background checks on Mike's companions. That bleary-eyed blonde kid clearly wasn't sober. Temporarily relocating to a 5-star hotel with my guard, I soon received the investigation report. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Mike had been doing drugs and dealing with those losers. Photos showed them clouded in haze at some dim den. I immediately reported them to the police. Rumor says they arrested Mike mid-celebration with his buddies. Drug possession and trafficking? Mike spending life behind bars. Relatives collectively developed amnesia about his existence, tacitly avoiding any mention of the Wilson family altogether. These past 6 months healed me watching sunsets over Northwest deserts, tracing Changbai mountain snow ridges, marveling at Juzhagu's crystal lakes. I lingered wherever called to me. Until now. The international call finally came. So John couldn't resist anymore? Hello, MS. Ivy. I'm Linda from John's overseas team. We wanted to check on Mr. and Mrs. Wilson but can't reach them. Did they change numbers? Hearing John's precious first love Linda's cultured voice through the receiver, I smirked at my reflection. What kind of colleague waits 6 months to check in on a coworker? Did they think me stupid? Putting on a grieving tone, I replied, "Thank you for your concern, but no need to call again." After all, I'd helpfully upgraded all relatives' phone plans paid from my account. When their desperate calls to everyone failed, I knew they'd eventually contact me. Linda's voice sharpened 2 octaves. Ms. Ivy. Could you let Mr. and Mrs. Wilson take the call? My measured silence stretched as I gazed at the bodyguard polishing her tactical gloves. I twirled a strand of my hair around my finger. I might not be able to answer. Linda's voice sharpened. Ivy. What's with this attitude? Can't I check in on a colleague's parents? I feigned fright. My voice trembling. John's co-worker. I know you mean well. But my in-laws have been buried for over 6 months. Their graves probably have weeds by now. How exactly should they answer calls? The clatter of silverware against porcelain came through the receiver, followed by the crash of an overturned chair. TSK. Lost your appetite? Linda abandoned all pretense. Her shrill voice piercing. Then what about Mike? Why isn't he answering? I chuckled. Oh. He's dead too. The phone rustled as it changed hands. A familiar voice growled. Explain yourself. What do you mean dead too? Answer me. You vicious witch. John and Linda weren't exactly top-tier talents. After moving abroad, Linda refused to endure hardships. John found work as a Chinese lecturer at some diploma mill. In their previous life, they'd lived comfortably off my regular subsidies. 6 months had now passed since their scheduled money transfer date. Not only had the funds not arrived, but U.S. immigration authorities suddenly came knocking about passport irregularities. Despite his frantic explanations, it took bribing an agency to get him out of police custody. Further investigation revealed his Chinese citizenship had been revoked, invalidating his current passport. They had 1 month to resolve this or face deportation. The couple desperately tried contacting family back home. John discovered all his relatives' numbers were disconnected. His brother Mike's line still rang, but no one ever picked up. Other relatives' numbers were similarly dead. Finally, Linda resorted to this concerned colleague charade to reach me. Their overseas savings had dwindled, drained further by agency bribes. Hearing me declare his entire family dead, John finally snapped, but I'd already hung up. Over the following days, foreign calls and emails flooded in. I rejected them all. John even sent tear-stained apology letters claiming amnesia after a recent car accident, begging me to help restore his citizenship. What could I do? I treated them as comedy material. Later, I heard the star-crossed lovers split up. Linda married some foreigner. After she dumped him, John kept harassing her until she and her new husband sold him to a black market coal mine. Being undocumented, his death went unnoticed. Smiling, I resumed my travels. At 40, I adopted a bright-eyed girl from an orphanage named Su Ming. Clever, kind, and filial, she became my greatest joy.